Today I want to talk to you about the star of Medusa in astrology, also known as the star of Algol. Right here. All right, but before we get started about Medusa, this woman pictured behind me is actually a very, very historical figure known as Mata Hari, who was a Dutch courtesan and was actually charged during World War I for espionage and for being a traitor and for being a spy for the Germans. In my humble opinion, Mata Hari is a classic example of Lilith and the classic tale of Medusa, because if you really know the history behind Medusa, then you know what I'm talking about. The example of femininity, feminine power and prowess as the scapegoat. But that's another story for another day. Now, Mata Hari actually has the star of Algol Medusa in her birth chart. And if you're not familiar with her story, she was actually beheaded. Her head was severed. She was killed by gunfire. Horrible, horrible death. And till this day, her head cannot be found. So why is this connected to Medusa today? Why are we talking about this? The star of Medusa, Algol, is actually a malefic star in astrology and sits at 23 degrees of Taurus. So if you have any planets that have a tight conjunction within 5 degrees of 23 of Taurus, or any position such as your North Node, then you definitely have the star of Medusa in your chart. The star of Medusa is known as the demon star. It's the star of sorrows, but don't get too hung up on that. Now, Medusa, the star of Algol, also represents anything to do with the head. So that could be beheadings, assassinations, and many famous figures in history who've had head trauma, such as JFK, MLK, all have the star of Medusa in their chart, like Mata Hari. This is Mata Hari's chart. You'll see she has Pluto at 24 degrees in Taurus, which is the planet of death, and it is conjunct Algol in her chart. Now, on the other side of her chart, here's her Lilith, and Lilith is known as the dark femininity, and her Lilith is in the 8th house of death, and it's in Capricorn, which is government affairs, and they actually make a connection. They make a trine to her Pluto, and trines give us some sort of recognition, something that we would be known for and known by. Definitely not trying to glorify the horrendous acts that were done against Mata Hari, because she did experience horrible death, and who knows about the allegations, whether they were true or not. But this right here tells us that she would suffer or experience some sort of death conjunct Algol as it relates to head trauma, and be glorified for such, and with her Lilith, be a scapegoat as it relates to dark femininity. That's all for today's Algol episode. I'll be back with more videos. Don't forget to follow. I'm Esoteric Essa, your Latina astrologer and bruja. Mwah!